Price of freedom is death. We're coming to get our check.
Black first, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Afro Elite YouTube channel. I am your host, Afro Elite. Before we get started, please hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Also, leave a thumbs up and share this on your various social media platforms because that helps the reach and the growth of the channel. For all of what you guys do, I appreciate it very much. Thank you so much. So we're going to be discussing Ron DeSantis and his hypocritical attacks on woke. Now, what's interesting is that when Ron DeSantis and when the right, because Ron DeSantis is not the only one at all, he's really the main attacker of the woke, quote unquote, but he's by far not the only one. But Ron DeSantis and the right, they attack what they call the woke. And when you ask them for a loose definition about what woke really means, they'll say things like, woke is just this extremist rhetoric against conservatism. Woke is this very, very, very super far leftist thing. They always say it's the leftist thing. It's crazy progressiveness and all that stuff. That's what they say. It's anti-conservatism. But when you ask them to give you examples of what woke really means, they can only cite examples about Black people. So woke really doesn't, they say it, and they might even use it in instances where they include other groups of people besides just Black people, but you never really see them use it in instances that has absolutely nothing to do with Black people, because woke is just a term to disguise their agenda, which is to attack Black people and Black society. That's what woke really means. And we're going to prove that. We're going to prove that because they'll say woke is pretty much anything that's not white. Now, so we know, let's get this definition 100% clear. So we know woke doesn't mean this leftism and it's just anti-conservative, because they'll sum it up in a loose definition. They'll say, oh, woke is anti-conservatism and everything. They'll use woke in that context. But when you stop and ask them for a very solid, specific definition of what the word woke is, you'll wind up getting something like this.
Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, I mean, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. I mean, woke is something that's very hard to define, and we've spent an entire chapter defining it. It is sort of the understanding that we need to totally reimagine and redo society in order to create hierarchies of oppression. Sorry, it's hard to explain in a 15-second soundbite.
Yeah, look, I mean,
it's one of those things that
you see, because the thing is that they can't say woke is anti-Black. They can't say that spills the beans. They can't say anti-Black. That's why they come up with terms. And this is not the first time white supremacy has done this before. They did this with the quote-unquote war on drugs, or when they talk about we need to stop these thugs, and thugs is a code word for Black men specifically, because they don't talk about other criminals being thugs. Only Black men are the thugs. So when they come up with code words, they use that so they can attack what they call these code words or these terms, but really it's just an attack of Black people. You know, as far as the war on drugs, as far as the word thug, as far as the term woke, all of that is an attack on Black people. So you can't really ask for a very specific definition of what woke is, because when you ask for that and then you ask to give examples, the only examples that they can ever provide to you is examples against Black people. Now, we've talked about the situation with Ron. Everybody knows Ron DeSantis is super anti-woke, right? So you would assume, in the way the right markets the word woke, you would assume that woke is pretty much anything that's anti-America is the best. America is the greatest. And if you say anything outside of America is the greatest, if you bring up any negative history that America has done to other groups of people, then that's woke. Now, when it comes to slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, and everything, to try to teach that in schools, that's considered woke now. To teach the actual history, nothing's made up, no conspiracy, nothing. To teach the actual history of Black people in this country, then they say that's woke. But they'll try to say, okay, well, woke is just pretty much teaching kids to hate America. If you teach about slavery, you're teaching kids to hate America. If you teach about the bad things that America has done to other groups of people, that will teach white kids to hate themselves, right? And then they'll teach the other ethnic group of kids to hate America. So that's the excuse they use when they say they don't want us learning about slavery or learning about Jim Crow. But in this article I'm going to read to you, you see that they don't keep that energy when it comes to other ethnic, non-white ethnic groups. No, your eyes do not deceive you. It says DeSantis signs bill requiring AAPI history, which stands for Asian American Pacific Islander history, in Florida schools. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a bill that mandates the inclusion of Asian American and Pacific Islander AAPI history in the state's K-12 curriculum. The General Education Bill, which includes other new requirements in the sector, will specifically require the teaching of the incarceration of Japanese Americans in World War II, the quote, immigration, citizenship, civil rights, identity, and culture of AAPIs and the group's contributions to American society. Tuesday's signing makes Florida the first Republican-led state to pass such a law. Miami Chang, director of the Make Us Visible Florida, the local chapter of a nonprofit that pushes for the inclusion of AAPI studies in public schools, led the effort for 2 years to make that happen. Quote, it took a lot of work and determination in order to get this passed, Chan said, according to the Independent Florida Alligator. I guess that's a news publication. Asian American history is American history. Now, shout out to Torian. I know he covered this story, but this is what they say about Black people. We're the ones who say Black history is American history. Asian American history. Now everybody wants to be Black now. Everybody wants to have the same problems and the same struggles. Now, my thing is this. Isn't this what you would call woke? They're not just talking about the good things that Asians have contributed to America. They're talking about the forced the forced incarceration. Isn't that woke? Doesn't that teach America's bad history? So it's okay to teach America's bad history when it's not about Black people. All of a sudden, it's not woke then. That's just history. It's not, oh, you only have to talk about the positives of American history. But when you're talking about the Asian community, you can talk about them being incarcerated. You can talk about the internment camps of the World War II war. So, and that's not woke. While the law takes effect on July 1st, the curriculum will take years to prepare. Chan said their organization will be monitoring its development. High school student Jake Leaf, who is part Chinese, said he did not learn a lot about his culture growing up. While he may not be in class anymore when the lessons begin, he is thrilled for future generations. Okay. If you didn't learn about your culture growing up, you can say that's your parents' fault. You know, quote, I'm excited for people like my little sister and people like that to just learn more about Asian culture and have that experience that I wasn't really able to fully get, Leaf told WKMG. Quote, so it'll be really cool that they're able to experience that. While DeSantis has advanced AAPI representation with the passing of the bill, the Florida governor has also banned Chinese citizens from buying land in a separate legislation. An exception is reserved for Chinese visa holders who may own one home as long as they are registered with a state agency. Now, before you start to think that Ron DeSantis is kind of easing up on the word woke, because everybody knows Ron DeSantis, he wants to be president, so people might think that, but don't be confused. He's not loosening his rhetoric or anything like that because he's trying to be more palatable to a larger audience of people. He's not trying to tone down because he wants to be president. He's just specifically not going after them because the whole term of woke has nothing to do with Asia or Asian Americans. The term woke means anti-blackness. Now, check this out. This is also Ron DeSantis attacking woke, and let's keep in mind, woke means black to them. So when they attack woke, that means black. That's what it means. So check this out. DeSantis takes anti-woke show to Illinois. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Friday doubled down on his attacks against, quote, woke policies in big business, saying he will soon sign legislation to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion language from all our public institutions. The 1,200 Republicans at the Peoria and Tazewell County Republican Lincoln Day dinner at the Peoria Civic Center ate it up. Quote, "We can never surrender to the woke mob," DeSantis continued, using bolstered conservative rhetoric to attack Democratic policies on public safety, border issues, trans issues, and COVID pandemic rules. Quote, "We choose freedom over Fauciism and we are better off," DeSantis said, prompting applause for one of the dozens of such lines delivered throughout the 42-minute speech. A large portion of the speech zeroed in on business policies, along with attacking DEI language, which stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion language. He criticized the investment strategy that address environmental, social, and corporate governance, ESG, calling it an effort to, quote, weaponize corporate power. And he poked at Walt Disney Corporation, which opposed the so-called Don't Say Gay law last year. They don't run the state of Florida, we run the state of Florida. DeSantis seemed to relish needing Illinois and its Democratic governor, J.B. Pritzker. The Florida governor jabbed Illinois for losing its residents to the Sunshine State. He criticized Pritzker for allowing some members of his family to stay in their Florida home during the pandemic and said former President Barack Obama, a former Illinois senator, was, quote, too left, though not as left as Democrats are today. DeSantis attacked President Joe Biden for causing, quote, more damage in a short period of time than any president in our lifetime. Now, I can't say that that's not true on that part, though. And though he listed numerous pieces of legislation he signed in Florida, DeSantis didn't mention the bill he just signed into law that would ban most abortions in the state after 6 weeks. He also didn't mention his likely run for president, though he hinted at one, saying, quote, I have only begun to fight. DeSantis stopped in Illinois, drew harsh criticism from Illinois Democrats, including Pritzker, who hours before the Florida governor's speech issued a statement calling DeSantis, quote, an authorized career politician who has no business being in public office, from passing a harsh abortion ban in the dead of night to erasing Black history in textbooks. Now, here's one thing about J.B. Pritzker. There's a whole bunch of schools, Black schools, that need to be funded that were closed down years ago, that we were told that was going to be, refurbished and opened back up again, and nobody said anything about that. Instead, you guys are housing illegals in those buildings, those schools that you guys said were you're going to reopen for Black people. So I'm not going to give Pritzker a pass acting like he cares about Black history, because he doesn't. And Democratic Party of Illinois Chair Lisa Hernandez, issued a statement saying DeSantis' vision of the country contradicts everything that we stand for in Illinois. Outside of the convention center where DeSantis spoke, a crowd of more than 100 protesters gathered. Many were members of the Peoria Proud, a group that rejects DeSantis' Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. Others held signs calling out his views on abortion. Now, you see all of these white folks calling out DeSantis. They're not calling out his anti-black racism. They're calling out his homophobia, his views on abortion. You know, so don't be fooled by thinking that there's some white folks out here who are calling out DeSantis. Don't be fooled thinking that they're on the side of black folks, because they're calling out DeSantis for their own reasons and their own agenda. They don't care about black history. They don't care that he's attacking black history. It continues to say, most Republicans inside the convention center voted for the former president Donald Trump in 2020's general election, though many are open to seeing a new face on top of the GOP ticket in 2024. Like our brother Torian Rain says, if DeSantis becomes the president of the United States, we're going to have a very rough ride if DeSantis becomes president. Now, the people inside say they might be open to seeing a new face. In my personal opinion, Trump will crush DeSantis. DeSantis cannot step to Trump. There is no way in the world that DeSantis is like a challenge for Trump in the GOP ticket. That's not from what I'm seeing so far, unless something crazy happens. But Trump is washing DeSantis. And I'm not like no big Trump supporter. I'm just saying DeSantis ain't got a snowball's chance in hell to beat Trump getting a ticket unless something crazy happens to give him that advantage. Quote, I think people are ready for the drama to be done. Illinois Republican State Senator Sue Renez told Politico. She was among some 30 elected officials and other Republicans at a private roundtable policy discussion with DeSantis held before Friday's dinner. Quote, people want leaders who can govern and who are not polarizing, and he has shown that, Renez said after the meeting. Dan Braddy, a Republican who served more than 20 years in the Illinois General Assembly, said voters are, quote, eager to hear from a candidate with, quote, conservative values and, quote, a good conduct and character. Who is that? I want to know who that is, because that's not DeSantis talking about good conduct and character. That is the opposite. That is the antithesis of Ron DeSantis. They're good character, good conduct. Get at man, please. Please. Neither of the Illinois Republicans wanted to attack Trump, and DeSantis didn't mention the former president's controversial appearance on CNN earlier in the week. Friday's event took part in central Illinois, mostly Republican territory. It's home to the GOP's Congressman Darren Laywood, who helped organize the event. Though Peoria and Tazewell counties split on Trump in 2020. Yep, this is Ron DeSantis for you. That's Ron DeSantis, okay? And this is the whole thing about woke. Everybody's talking about, you know, or all the alt-right and the right-wing conservatives and all that stuff, the Trump and Ron DeSantis supporters. They talk about, oh, woke, I don't want my kids to learn these things because I don't want them to grow up feeling guilty and all that. And I don't want other races of kids to hate my kids or whatever the case is. So we should just keep that. We should keep kids innocent, you know, in a race away from America's actual history until pretty much they're adults. And then they can learn about slavery, right? But they don't keep that energy when it comes to the Asians. And they don't keep that energy when it comes to the Mongoloid Native Americans. They don't keep that energy when it comes to other ethnic groups of people or the things that America has done to harm them. They're not stopping these little white kids from learning about that. They're not stopping that. So why is it an issue when it's black kids? See, the thing is that exposes the term woke, because the term woke isn't, oh, if you say that America is bad, it's too sensitive. That's their excuse. They don't mind teaching the kids how bad America is. They just don't want Black history to be taught in schools, period. Because now, and I've been saying this for a little bit, now they're starting to see that Black people are starting to become empowered by Black history. Now, the excuse that they make is, I don't want white kids to feel bad and all that. First off, that white guilt, like I've said before, white guilt does not exist. White people don't feel bad for slavery. That's stuff that's not true. That's just not true. White people have been learning about slavery decades and decades and decades ago, before I was even born, decades ago. It's not like learning about slavery now is going to make them hate their whiteness. White people have never hated their whiteness. That's never been a thing. And they've all knew about slavery. So it's not like learning about slavery now is going to make them hate their whiteness. They're not afraid that it is going to make them hate their whiteness. They're afraid that Black people are going to learn about their history and their heritage in this country, and it's going to fuel and empower them and embolden them to seek justice. Back when they were teaching about slavery, about how we were nothing but a slave and how we were nothing but property and all of these negative things about us, back when they thought that teaching us about our history and our suffering subconsciously put some form of low self-esteem and self-hate and self-doubt in the minds of Black children, they never had a problem teaching about woke. They never had slavery. They never had a problem teaching about slavery. It wasn't woke then. That's not when it was woke. But now that Black people, especially the Foundation Black Americans, especially now that we're making headway and we're moving the needle forward to get reparations and to dismantle the system of white supremacy and replace it with a system of justice, now that we're using our history to fuel that and as the foundation of that, and we're citing our history when it comes to certain justice claims, now they want to completely dismantle all of the woke history that they've been teaching for decades and decades. They just want to completely erase the board with that. Brothers and sisters, please let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. What do you think of the term woke? What do you think of Ron DeSantis and his hypocrisy as far as making sure the Asians and the AAPI community know their history, and their history is taught in school, while he's trying to remove wokeness all over which is really anti-Blackness, but he's trying to remove woke away from everything else everywhere he can. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments section below. Also, you can follow me on my various social media platforms, which is Afro Elite on Instagram and then the Afro Elite on Twitter. Family, please do not forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification button so you don't miss out on any future content. Leave a like on this video and make sure you share it too, because that really does help the reach of this channel and the growth of this channel. And with that being said, my brothers and my sisters, be one salute to every single last one of you guys, and you all have a good one.